Where are we? We're on less than 7 somewhere?
30.
Which one?
30.
But we're on number 30 of less than 7.
Yes.
That's what I meant. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out. I'm glad you told me that. You had to ask me. That's going to probably end up pretty fast then. I'm not sure how big less than 7 is. That's the test I'm going to give when 7's over. That's, you know.
64?
Huh?
64.
Yeah, only 64.
Oh.
I worded it that way right there. You know, the bigger the PowerPoint, the more questions I have to pull off of it. I'm trying to find number 30. There we go. So y'all seen this one?
Yeah.
Let's start there then. I don't want to start number 30 without a little recap. You got hypotonic solutions, hypertonic solutions, and isotonic solutions. Now this one we talked about, and that word, and I said solution every time. I didn't say hypotonic cell. This is always discussing the solution. And if you're hypotonic, hypo means what? A lot or a little bit?
Not much.
Not much. So, in a hypotonic solution, there's not much stuff in the solution. A lot more stuff in the cell, by contrast. And if you put that cell into a hypotonic solution, it's going to swell up. And it often will burst. That's how white blood cells actually kill bacteria. Now, white blood cell has the ability to make the environment hypotonic. And then water rushes into bacteria. Bacteria swells up. Boom! That's one dead bacteria. And you protect it from whatever disease it causes. And then other white blood cells come in and they clean the mess up. So when it explodes, you got arms here, legs here, right? So they're going to clean the mess up. Now, my next slide is going to be the other way. If this one makes the cell swell, then by contrast, what's going to happen next? And that's how you make raisins, by the way. But anyway, let's talk about the next one. The word is hypertonic. 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 Hyper, of course, means a lot of stuff. And if you think about a hypertonic solution, there's a lot of stuff in that solution. Not much stuff in the cell. Now, let me tell you something now about this. If there's a lot of stuff in the cell, in the solution, there must not be much water in that same thing. Okay. Jim. Yeah. Yeah, I see what you're doing there. Yeah, that's good. Put your name on this, so I know who to get ready. Okay. What?
He said put our name on it.
Oh, you hijacked that paper, huh? It's not that because you were grandfathered in, so to speak. Okay. So, on the other one, you know the hypotonic. If you have less stuff, then you must have more water, right? If you have more water, it's going to leave with more water and go with less water, which is cell. And here, you have more stuff. Therefore, you must have less water. and that means there's more water in the cell. And by diffusion, it's going to leave the more water area and go to where there's less water, and that cell is going to shrink. And if you take a grape and drop it into a hypertonic sugar solution, it will lose water, and that grape will turn to a raisin. That's how we make it. And you can carry a lot more raisins in your pocket than grapes. About the same nutrition though. It's just the water has no real benefit. So a bag of 50 raisins ain't very big compared to a bag of 50 grapes. Alright? And the picture shows you something that's becoming flaccid and water leaving it. The solution in the cell is only 2%. Yet in the beaker it is 10%. That's hypertonic because there's more stuff dissolved in the solution and the cell. And when you drop that bag in there, as the water leaves, the bag's going to shrivel up. Because the water's going to go where there's not much water to where there's less water. There's more water in that 2% solution than in that 10% sucrose. But you got more sugar, you got less water, right? So if you have 2% sugar versus 10% sugar, obviously I got more sugar in 10%, right? Who had more water though? The 10 or the 2? The 2. If you got more water, now the sugar can't move. The sugar cannot move. All they move is the water. And it's going to leave the area inside that bag where there's a lot of water and go out into the area where there's not much water, and that bag is going to shrivel up. If you have a sore throat and everybody says gargle salt water, that's what's happening. When you pour the salt into your water, you stir it up, and you gargle it. As that salt water is hitting your cells and bouncing, now you don't swallow it, right? It's bouncing off your throat. That gargle is hypertonic to those sore cells. Those sore cells are swollen, that's why they hurt. Well, they will lose water into your gargle. And when you spit it out, you find you have relief from the sore throat. Now that makes your sore throat well? It just resolves the pain. It might do it again and you got to gargle again later on. But that's why the gargle works. Now if you were to gargle distilled water, you're going to make it worse because it's going to go into the cells and you're going to go from being bad to having agony. Yes?
Can you go back to that first picture with the hypotonic?
That's hypo, and water is going in a lot faster than it's coming out. I went the wrong way. Hang on. That's the first one. Water's traveling in. That's the big blue line. It's leaving, but not as fast as it's coming in as well as up. Got it?
My thing's trying to focus because it's all white.
Try to get directly at it.
There it goes.
Alright?
Got it.
Now, if you have a problem, I'll go back to it when class is over. I can take you one-on-one and show you pictures again if you want to not hold the class up and let folks criticize you. ISO means equal. Do you know that, right? ISO means equal. It means the same. So if there's the same amount of stuff that's all on both sides, there's no real net movement, and a thing don't change in size. It stays as big as it was, even after you drop it in that solution. Osmotically means there's just as much water outside the cell in that solution than there is inside the cell. So there's no net gain or loss of water at all. And the picture shows you the bag did not change. The bag is 2%. Well, so is the solution. I got water going in and water coming out at the same pace. Therefore, there's no change in my size of my bag at all. That's isotonic. And your cells right now, your blood cells in your plasma is isotonic. You don't things swell up and block your blood vessels. And your cells right now are isotonic. That's why you don't swell. Okay? Now let me go back in one more time. And this one, which is hypo, there's less sugar in the solution than the cell. But on the flip side, if there's less sugar, then there's more water in solution. Does that follow? If there's more water in solution, by diffusion, does water go where there's more or where there's less? Where there's less. So you look at a picture here, there is more water out there in that solution than inside there in that cell. So water goes into the cell, makes that cell swell up, and like a bubble gum bubble, it will eventually burst. The other picture on this one, the very inverse is true. There's a lot of stuff in the solution, therefore there's not much water. But inside the cell, there's not much stuff, a lot of water. And where do you find more water this time? Inside the cell. So by diffusion, what's going to happen? It's going to go from where there's more to where there's less. It's going to leave the cell, go outside into the beaker, and that poor cell is going to shrivel up. Okay? And then if you have everything balanced, well, there's no net gain nor loss. Everything's the same. Water goes in, water comes out, same pace. No difference in size whatsoever. That's how things are right now in your body. Yes?
So it's hypotonic, there's less sugar in solution in the cell, and then what's the other one?
Hypertonic. Hypertonic is more sugar in the solution,
All right.
less water. You can't be hyper both ways, can you? I can't be hyper sugar, hyper water. You can't.
No.
If I'm hyper sugar, then guess what? I'm hypo water. If I'm hypo sugar, then I'm hyper water. And I'm discussing the solution every time. These words are about the solution. But then you know that the opposite must be true for the cell. Because when I say this is a hypertonic solution, I'm saying there's more stuff dissolved in solution than in the cell. If I say hypotonic solution, I'm saying that there's less stuff in the solution, more stuff in the cell. If there's more stuff in the cell, there must be less water, right? If there's less stuff outside, there's more water. And more goes to where there's less. By diffusion, where you have more water, it's going to leave the area and go where there's less water, and that cell's going to swell up and hypo. Now I do have, is it on here? Let me ask you to do something, because and all through college, I never could remember, but I got me a way of remembering. I shared with teachers, and they didn't know it. How do you spell hypotonic?
H-Y-P-O.
Stop. O, right? I write that word now. See that first O? I make it real big. What's that telling me?
That's swell.
That's a swelling cell. That's my clue. It works every time. Before I make that thing up, I wasn't sure which way was going on. But when I write that word hypotonic, I make that a big O. I make it big too, buddy. And that's my mind telling me what's going to happen to a cell that you put in a hypotonic solution. Now, I don't worry about the hypertonic, do it. You know why? If I know one, then guess what?
No, the other.
I know the other one automatically. And when I write, and you see me do it sometimes, in my mind I'm thinking that. When I'm saying a big O. And that's telling me that in a hypotonic solution, that swell is going to swell up. Like that big O did. And that's how I remember it. Before that I tried to memorize it. And this didn't work. Because the first I asked the question in so many weird ways that my memorization would not work. He would say, what would happen to a cell that you put, the cell is say 9%, and you drop it into a 15% solution. I now know what's going to happen. Because if 9 is a cell and 15 is a solution, then that solution is a hyper or hypo. It's hyper. Because ain't 15 bigger than 9?
It is.
Well, if I know hyper, then I know it ain't going to swell up.
It'll shrink.
It's going to shrink. But if he tells me, well, let's say the cell is 19% and the solution is only 10. Well, what's that solution going to be?
It's going to what?
What's bigger, 19 or 10?
19.
And which is 19, the cell or solution?
The cell.
The cell. So in that term, well, that solution is hypotonic, and my memory kicks in, big O, it's going to swell up. And that's how I remember it. And I still do it this very day. If you're teaching y'all, my mind is just that, big O. That's how I keep it straight. And it works beautifully. And I've shared that with other teachers who go, can I use that? I said, yeah, you can use it. Because that's truly mine. That's my thought of it. I always have these little catches I use, and I can't think of any of them. I need one. I've had folks say, you got to write a book about your catchphrases. I can't remember them. They're writing down to use them. I ain't going to do that. But I have tons of them I use. So those are the pictures, and I can get all kinds of pictures.
Can you go back to 30 for a second?
Huh?
Can you go back to 30 for a second?
To 30? There's 30. But it makes sense to me now. Because the water is moving. The water is the one that's moving from where there's less water to where there's more water. If I know the solution percentages, then by the opposite, then I know what the water's like. And that makes it work perfectly. And from those 3 slides, I can get a bunch of questions, as you well know. There's 3 slides, I can probably get 12, 15 questions from the slides. But I do ask them same way at different times. Same answers, but I'm asking you from this angle, and this angle, and that angle. Alright, so there's the, I might just show you a picture. But nothing else, no numbers, anything. And see if you realize what's happening. This is before, and this is after. If the one on top's before, and that's after, I'll just do the thing shriveled up. Well, it didn't swell up, did it? So guess what? It's not. It's not hypo. Then it must be the inverse, which is hypo. And if nothing happens, it looks the same,
ISO.
then ISO, because it made no difference. So that used to be to me a complicated, but now it's simple now to me. And after I get to teaching it, many folks who have wondered, it makes sense to them too. Now, this is 32. We're talking about a complication about this water moving back and forth. Cells, as you know, can't afford to lose much water, and they can't afford to gain much water either. Can you overwater a plant?
Mm-hmm.
You better believe you can. And can you underwater it?
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to find that happy medium where it's perfect. My wife bought me a mum, and I put it outside. It hadn't frozen, but I looked at it one day, and all the flowers were upside down. They're all pointing down. Every one of them, I'm like, oh my God! Apparently, when they bought in the store, it had them in water. So I went in there and I took my carafe I used to pour water, and I poured water into it. And I looked at it a few hours later, and they're all standing back up. And that's not how you want to water a plant, though. You don't watch the flowers do this number. You want to keep it watered before they fall. So I'm watering about every other day, and they're staying up. Now the first time it says freezing, I got to bring it inside. You know why, don't you? When water freezes, what's it do? It gets bigger or small?
Expands.
It expands. Well, if you got water inside those plant cells and it expands, what happens to those cells? It destroys them. And your plant dies. That's why it dies. And if you have, like, right now, my plums are not blooming yet. But if I had money invested, like in oranges, and if it froze and all my flowers fell off, then my oranges are around. Flower becomes an orange. Every flower becomes an orange. You lose your flowers, you lost your crop. And what they will do, running water does not freeze. Even a creek might be frozen on the top, but under it is running. And so what they do in Florida for freeze, they will sprinkle their flower, their crops, and let the water trickle down through these nets and flow. As long as it's flowing, it ain't gonna freeze. Now watch, how about your water bill look? You gotta pay the water due along your house. So. I would like to be a farmer, but then again, you have a lot of riding on nature, and sometimes she can mess you up. And my house payment depends on how many oranges I sell. That's going to have me high blood pressure a lot. So they must have a way of maintaining how much water is in those leaves, and Mother Nature does a great job of it. It's called osmoregulation. And right now outside there, those leaves are losing water at the bottom of them. And the water from the roots are coming up. And as you lose water, that's called transpiration. And as you lose water, that forms a vacuum like a suction, or you suck it up through a straw. And as they lose water, that forms a vacuum, and that pulls water from the roots and actually pulls water up the tree. Now, if it gets too dry, now what happens, you'll sometimes see leaves and limbs fall off a tree and just crash to the ground. If it's been dry for a long, long time, and then it rains real hard, when those roots suck that water up and those limbs full of water, they can't support their own weight sometimes, and they break off and fall on the ground. The best way to do it, if you water your grass, water your trees too, and don't keep watering all the time. But a drought, as you know, kills because of no water. And then when it rains, you find trees split and half will fall on your house. And I know in our tree service, we have a lot of times where the tree won't fall, but a big limb will fall off and poke holes in your roof. And then when it rains, your attic gets wet, and you start looking up and say, my ceiling is wet. And you go there and there's a limb sticking through your roof. So our job is to remove the limb, and we call the roofer and say, you come and cover the roof, and then we come back later on. You can patch it. Insurance usually covers that. All right? So let's see what we got next. Okay. Now here's some examples of how osmosis can be a problem. Now this first condition right here will cause water, as you know, to enter a cell and make it swell up. If the environment has less things dissolved in it than the plant does, well, that's going to make that plant be in a hypertonic situation. And that plant's going to soak up water. You're going to find your plant slowly dying on you. Only because if you wouldn't water it too much, there was an imbalance in the the Job's tree spikes you know on the ground. You know a miracle grow that comes in that green yellow bag, and they tell you how much to use, and it's a blue type of powder. Well, that powder produces a hypertonic solution. And that's going to do a lot to control how much water does not enter. And that powder, that's magnesium, that's all those good minerals that the plant takes up. And some high school kids, they want to know, what can I do for a good experiment? And I said, why don't you do this? Go to Walmart and buy you some of this Miracle Grow. If it says to put 1 teaspoon in a gallon, try 2. Try half of one. And see if maybe they're being conservative. Because you might be able to get the same amount of growth with a half a teaspoon and make that thing last twice as long, or you go back and buy more of it. And then again, they know some folks don't follow directions. And so maybe if I could use 3 tablespoons, they'll say just 1. You know why, don't you? But some folks put more in there anyway, and then they don't be sued because your ornamental shrub that your daddy gave you, daddy's now dead. That's my keepsake. Is now dead because your product killed it. It's hard to prove how you watered it. I mean, if I just say, well, if 1 teaspoon is good, I bet you 5 is 5 times better. Does that work, you reckon?
Might.
You pour fertilizer on your lawn and see what happens to your lawn. Just pour it out there.
Yellow.
There's gonna be a jungle or a dead lawn.
Dead
It's
one.
gonna be a dead lawn. It's gonna burn it right there. And when you're out there doing and you're walking and you got your fertilizer, when you stop for a minute and that stuff pours out right there, you take off again. In a few days you look back, there'll be a little round yellow area right there
Pour water
where you over fertilize the lawn. So that's all part of this water thing. Animals like an amoeba, things like that, if they enter an environment like an oil spill, then you have all kinds of problems that might take place in there. Could you take a shark from the ocean and put it in Lake Oliver and have it live for years and years and years?
No.
You know why, don't you? What's the water like in the ocean?
It's
Salt water.
Salt
fresh water.
and fresh water. Well, that shark in the ocean, he has a mechanism built into him where he can, if he is in a hypertonic solution, he would be losing too much water, right? But he had a mechanism that makes that not happen. You put him in Lake Oliver, and now he's going to be losing too much water. He's going to die. I mean, do rivers open into the ocean?
No.
Can I drive my boat down the river into the ocean?
Yeah.
No.
Why can't a shark swim up? He can't swim up there, can he? But he won't, you know why?
Is he smart?
He won't survive. He might try it. I mean, where do salmon grow up?
The river.
Bull
In
sharks can survive.
river or the ocean?
River. The ocean, they swim up the stream, don't they?
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're born in the river,
Bull sharks can survive.
and they float, and they go down to the ocean, and they grow up out there. And they fight their way back up the river, and they die. You know why, don't you? Because those are ocean critters. But the eggs they lay must be laid in fresh water. And if you have, like, you ever seen lightning crashing all the little slide boats? How does that rascal know to turn left here, turn right, as he swims up that river? How does he know?
Programming.
Huh?
It just knows. It's like programming in their brain.
Where he is born, there's concentration of chemicals in the area. He homes back in on it. If you have an industry they're using that water, you have a spill, does that change the concentration identity? He
Yes.
can't find his home. That's going to affect that salmon not getting back to lay more eggs and make more salmon. I mean, you've seen bears just wait for them to jump out and grab one of them. I mean, there's so many coming upstream, and it seems like they would lay their eggs and go back down the ocean with it. And they don't do it. They perish. That's the way nature has it. I would hate to be a salmon. I'm good for one bunch of kids, and that's all, buddy. So that's all part of it. All right. Vacuoles are another way that organisms can control how much water they have. But the vacuoles can actually spit water out as you would be drowning. Now I got a picture on the next slide again. And they're called contractile vacuoles. They squeeze and squirt out the water that would have hurt that animal, but they can get the water back out there. Where it would have swollen up and bursted, like in a hypotonic solution, the vacuole solves that problem. And protists are those single-cell critters that you cannot see without a microscope, but you drink them all the time in water. As a matter of fact, that's why you say you don't want to drink water flowing in creeks and streams. Back in the time of David Crockett and Daniel Boone, you could. Because back then, they didn't have fertilizers going down on crops. And that was pure water. Now, if you climb a mountain, you're very top of a mountain up there, where the water starts, you can drink it. I mean, the Chattahoochee River starts in Helen, Georgia. And up there, It's about that wide. You go, that's the river? Yeah, but more things flow into it. And if you go to the headwaters, where it starts, it comes out great. And they have a lot of little restaurants in Helen, Georgia. Helen, Georgia is like a little German community. It's really pretty. And they maintain that for tourists. And there's one restaurant that's sitting there, and the water is real shallow, and there's trout in the water. And it looks nothing like the river flowing by here. By the time it gets to us, man, it's gone to Atlanta, all that filth and crap. I wouldn't drink that water for nothing. And when you dive in the water, do you not get some in your mouth sometimes?
Yeah.
You know you did. But I ain't making tea out of it. Now, there's some folks who went on swimming river. They won't swim in it. Nor eat fish caught in it. When I grew up, I was raised on the river. And we did things that I would now tear my sons up. I know they did this stuff. And in fact, we did the grace of God, probably. We did some stupid stuff. And I can't believe this. We go out there deeper and deeper. We played dare. And the dare was, get down to the bottom. Well, how do you prove you made it to the bottom? You get some mud. You come back up and say, oh, go a little further out. What's the problem? You might go so far down, but you can't make it back up before you take a breath. Now, when you're 10 foot below the surface, take a breath, what happens to you?
You drown.
You drown. We did that stuff, and I know many times I went down and said, abort, abort, and went back up again. But I knew I ain't going to make it back up. I kept going. You had a sense that this is it, buddy. And it got colder, and the pressure got heavy on you. And I don't know whether I was that far from the bottom and gave out and chickened out. One more stroke, but I'm going, abort, abort. You can't be down here like that robot on Lost in Space. But yeah, we did that kind of foolish stuff. And I imagine my son did things that I don't want to know about. And I don't want him to tell me the things they did, and I'm just glad the good Lord took care of, because he took care of these folks. All right. This is the paramecium, and we have some slides. These things are so little you cannot see it with your eye, but a microscope can. And when you say that thing is full of color, it's kind of clear.
Clear?
He's kind of clear. He's transparent. But do you see right here? This is the vacuole. Here is empty. And as water comes in, he takes the water. He'll eventually spit it out. Or he busts. So as he takes in water from his hypotonic environment, that contractile vacuole will fill full of water. And then he will spit it out and start over again. And that's how he survives without exploding full of water. And that's, all this stuff here, these are just other vacuoles. But you can see the rays in here. And this bad boy, he just spit probably. And this guy here, he needs to spit pretty soon. So that's the contractile vacuole and the paramecium. And you'll find them in euglena and ball box and non-stock and other things also. But the paramecium has one of the most distinct ones you can see. So we're going to show you an example. I'm going to grab paramecium. As a matter of fact, when I want to show you an example of the contractile vacuole, I went looking for a picture of a paramecium, and that's what I found. Now, I can find other pictures, but paramecium shows the best.
So that's in water.
He's in water. Yeah, they live in water. Live in water. And he has cilia all around him. He's going all over the place. He don't stop for you. He hates light. So by the time you get him under your scope just right, look at this. He's gone. You always try and track him around. Now you can take that slide and put alcohol on it and kill him. And you see him then, but you won't see his cilia moving. So usually when you want to look at an amoeba or something like that, you look by yourself, because by the time you find him and you blink your eye, you got to find the sucker again, because he is gone to the light. Now, all these things don't like the light. I mean, that's the problem we have. Now, I can kill it, of course, but when I kill it, you don't get to see all the little cilia moving. It's cool. You know, little toys you wind up, they bump in the walls and keep going. It's not like that. He just never stops. Now he has enemies. Things eat him for a living, and he eats things for a living. All right. Now plant cells, they have a cell wall, and inside there they have a plant vacuole, which is not really a contractile vacuole. This thing fills full of water, and like you inflate an inner tube, well, they inflate themselves. See big old tractors around and big old tires? They're full of water. They ain't airing those. You know what they water those tires for? You want that tire spinning when he's trying to dig the earth? I want traction. I want a heavy tire. So they fill them big, that guy's full of water. That makes a heavy tire, buddy.
Some of them are just solid rubber.
Yeah, some are solid. But you don't find air in many at all.
What are we talking about?
Tractor tires.
A big old tractor tire, like you see big old front end loaders. When they run up to a pile of dirt, I don't want the tire spinning. I want them to dig in. And this plant vacuole, he contains water and he inflates the plant. When you see plants droop over, like they're melting, wilting, that means you better water your plant because all the plant vacuoles are empty, and you got a flat tire. And you got 1,000 flat tires. That's why it droops over. And when you water a sucker, you don't water his leaves, you water the soil. Because the roots take the water up and send it right back up those stems, out there, and it stands back up. But like I said, that's not the way you want to water your plant, though. You don't want to wait for it to wilt and then water it. There are some things I think you can put in your soil that would turn colors based on the amount of water in the soil. Usually I will take and just kind of rub my soil, and if it's kind of dry, then I'll water it, but if it's kind of like paste, then I don't. But after a while you get a feel for it. You know that every 2 days I got to water it. But if you go on vacation, you leave on a Friday and you come back on Sunday, sometimes you'll have lost your plants. That's when you have your neighbor come and water your plant for you. Or your son. And my son forgot one time that my plant was dying. But I can grow more. I grow more. Alright. This is a plant cell. And you'll see the same thing that's basically happening in these solutions that happen with a regular cell. And if you're in a hypotonic, you see, this is the vacuole shrunk away from the cell wall. This vacuole is inflated just right. And this vacuole is swelling and the walls are bulging. That's a hypotonic solution. It's going to make the plant take in water. And here, it is perfect. Now this one, you've lost water, and even the vacuole is shrinking away from the cell wall. Because that cell has been placed in a hypertonic solution. And that's going to wilt. It's like having a bunch of boxes that have no strength. They're going to fall over. Well, your cells in these plants, they have no bones to hold them up. That right there, that box, another box, another box, another box, if they stay full of water, your plant's going to stand there and be nice and pretty. But if you overwater it, you're going to kill it. But I tell you what, though, in my household, overwatering is not a problem. You wouldn't water it up. Then you see it wilt, you got trouble. So basically, in your house, you're not going to have a problem with putting too much water in. Your problem's going to be, I forgot my plant. I'll walk back in there a few years later, my plant's on the floor. And you go, maybe I'll water, it'll stand back up. And it does. But you can't do that very many times because a plant stops responding. It'll die. All right. Now the word, I wanted that word Turgor. I wanted Turgor. And the thing to underline has got me there. When I came along, we called it Turgor pressure. Turgor pressure. I'm gonna look ahead just a minute. Yeah, I can use that same slide again. I thought I could do it again. Turgor pressure is the amount of water that's in inside that cell. If you water it too much, you get too much water in the cell, and that's high turgor pressure. If you don't water it enough, it's going to droop over and wilt. That's low turgor pressure. If you water it just right, it stands there just pretty and the leaves point toward the sun, that's perfect turgor pressure. It all boils down how much water is inside those cells, making that plant stand up. In my house right now, I've got some, what do I call it? I got some pretty red flowers, and they're still in my. I have these troughs that I made. I put in potting soil, and I put in my seeds. Well, I must have not been careful because I have some plants growing outside those boxes. Inside the boxes, they've long died. But outside the box, they're as pretty and red as they were when they were inside. I'm going to probably throw them boxes away and just till my ground right there in front of my porch and just plant them right in the ground. Now, I got a weed, of course, and that you're going to maintain. But I realized that I can get a lot more time. Hummingbirds are all gone, but they fly up and stick the big little flowers and just. I got feeders hanging too, but they'll always go to that flower, and then they'll visit my feeder later on. But those flowers are always there. Cardinals also like not cardinals. Orioles, they like that nectar too, and so do lizards. I got some green lizards, and I got to run those suckers off. I got a few praying mantises who will actually eat a hummingbird. They're big mantises. And I got a picture of one somewhere that shows a praying mantis. He is grabbed and he is eating a hummingbird. How big's that mantis got to be to do that, you reckon? This thing is huge. I mean, he would scare me to see him coming.
Praying mantis.
They actually had something like that in National Geographic.
Yeah, it's not unusual. Well, it's unusual something to get an animal that big, but it must have been like a rookie hummingbird, like a little fledgling that didn't know better. But they got some praying mantises. They got one praying mantis that's white, just like a flower is. He's sitting still. The hummingbird comes up. He'll grab that sucker. He'll grab your finger too. But they never bit me though. I'll grab it and get that thing and throw it away. I'll hurt him. But I'll get him off. I guess don't hurt him. He'll look right at you. And he's the only insect that can hurt his head. And had a triangular head. A wicked looking thing. God, he's crazy like this. And if we grab something, they come up, they come out, they come back in, and he's got those soft teeth. Why don't bite me, I don't know. Now, I don't grab the bigger ones, because he might. I ain't real brave. But the small praying mantis, I can get a heartbeat, no problem. I like to watch them look at you. And they'll look. And I know what they're saying, because they don't have eyes like ours. They have these little false facets. And instead of me seeing one person, he sees 1,000. And how he knows where a strike is, like me seeing double, I probably hit the wrong person. Alright? Now, turgor is what gives you support that holds. Now, see that word herbaceous? That's where the word herb, not herb, herb. Those are herbaceous plants. The H is kind of silent. Herbaceous plants, they got the pretty green stems. Would you say an oak tree has green stems or kind of gray colored?
Gray.
They're not herbaceous either. Roses have green stems like that. Those are herbaceous. If you got green stems, you're herbaceous. If you got the woody stems, and I've seen folks draw pictures of pine trees and they color the wood brown. Is that correct? The wood. What do you think the rebel soldiers wore gray uniforms?
They can hide.
No. Well, yeah, hide the piney woods. Well, what color is pine bark? It's gray. If you wear a blue uniform, you stand out like a sore thumb. So we learned that you need to look around you, and sometimes you wear green camouflage, and you're in a pine tree, you stand out. You should be wearing gray camouflage. Yes.
I never understood that. Why do people wear camouflage going hunting when you have to wear a bright orange vest?
I don't see it at all.
That's a good question.
Deer can't see orange.
They say deer cannot see color.
Deer
How do you
can't
know
see
that,
if you
though?
stand there and don't move too.
That's true. As long as you don't, they'll smell you. But you turkey hunting, you ain't got to wear fluorescence.
Yeah.
You can wear turkeys see color though, buddy. And they see movement from a mile away.
Yeah, turkeys hide up in the tree too. Like, and
They hide at night, yeah. As a matter of fact, it was Ben Franklin Ben Franklin wanted to make our national bird, not the bald eagle, but the turkey. Now, you call me a turkey, am I happy or mad at you? I should be happy.
Why?
It's so hard to get. Turkeys are so sharp. I mean, to be called a turkey should be the highest compliment. But to be called a turkey actually gets you in a fight. But Ben Franklin realized that turkeys were phenomenal critters, and I reckon they're ugly though. You seen a turkey head? God, they're ugly. Ain't nothing pretty about a turkey except his tail. Alright? Oh, the idea of wilting, we call it plasmolysis. When he wilts, that he's undergoing plasmolysis, and usually if you water it, it'll stand back up. But like I said, you don't want to water based on any real time water. There's a plant which is healthy, and there's one which is wilted. They're not the same plant, as far as I know. The one on the right side, he needs watering pretty bad. One on the left side has been maintained pretty well, looks like. Now, if you water him on the right side, he'll stand back up pretty. But if you let it happen a few more times, one or two will respond. But most plants will stay like that. They lose the ability to spring back. So you don't want to base your watering schedule on when it looks like the one on the right there. All right. That takes me to the end of this PowerPoint. That means that this test is going to happen.
Monday, Tuesday.
I don't mind.
Monday.
I don't mind. We'll do it Monday.